Adityaya Namaha. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Swami Agneshwara Suryananda Satsang. Today, we're going to be talking about the Vedic diet and why, in the Vedic times, in the East, the Eastern masters used to follow this vegetarian lifestyle. Now, there are many people who eat meat, and they say it is so important. And there are many people who say meat is bad. And then there are those who go to the next extent, not just vegetarians. They say all dairy products are bad, and they are the vegans. No matter who you are, no matter what side you stand, I'm not here to argue which is right and which is wrong. I'm simply here to teach the Vedic secrets or the truths, why the Vedic lifestyle was adopted back then, and the secrets behind it, so that you can make your own decision. Now, the Vedic lifestyle was a vegetarian lifestyle. The reason was two reasons: the benefits to the soul and the benefits to the physical body. Now, today's time, it is a bit different. So, I will make sure I will first tell you about the Vedic secrets of the soul, and then I will tell you about the impacts on the physical body as well. Now, as far as the soul is concerned, the soul is limitless, and a portion of the soul is here, that is residing in this body. As we all are aware, as I've discussed in my previous videos. Now, why is vegetarianism so good for the soul? It's quite simple. As my last video when I talked about negative energy, you see, when you kill an animal, because you see, in the modern day and back then, there's always been the same. When you are hungry, you will kill the animal and you will cook it back then, fresh, on the fire or something, and eat it. Today's time, you'll kill it in a sort of order. They'll say, oh, we're going to kill this many cows or this many chickens today in the slaughterhouse. And it's predetermined. And they just kill it and they ship it away. Then and now, the predetermined death of the animal before its actual death should have occurred. None of these animals have ever had a proper long life and then died. They've always had a premature death. They've died before their time. And so their body emits negative energy. And when you eat that meat with negative energy, it corrupts your soul. You'll see vegetarians, they're a lot more calm, they're a lot more in peace with themselves. However, meat eaters, you'll see many of them will have many problems. Their mental state will be very confused. They won't be very calm, very clear-minded. You can see that in a lot of people who eat meat. However, I'm not saying everyone who eats meat is like that, but the general majority is like that. That is why the Vedic style, the monks, the sadhus, the people who had to always have a clear mind, they would just quit meat completely. That is the concept behind that as well. Now, the other reason for the soul, not only is the negative energy, but the karma. You see, a Vedic being, or a sadhu, or a swami, or an enlightened master from the East, no matter what civilization, these beings, they wanted, or I would say they were aware of karma, and they knew how it worked, and so they wanted a clean karma. And so, what did they do? They stayed vegetarian. And you may ask, why is eating meat going to generate bad karma? After all, I'm not the one killing it, so why should I be concerned? Well, it's quite simple. You see, when you buy a piece of meat, for example, let's say you buy a chicken at the local store. Let's say it was a fresh piece of meat, a fresh piece of chicken that was butchered this week. Some butcheries will have it regularly when they got their meat, some details like that. But let's just say it's a fresh piece of meat you got. When you buy that meat, that is when you generate the karma. Because you see, what happens is what you are promoting when you buy that meat. The first thing you're promoting is murder. Of course, you've killed a being before its natural death. That is the first thing you're promoting. That is in the east, the west, anywhere you go, if you buy meat, that is what you're promoting. They don't wait for the cow to naturally die and then cut it off. They don't wait for the chickens to naturally die and then cut it up. They cut it when it's time to sell. Fresh, premature death. And that is what you are promoting, indirectly by paying money for it. They will make sure that they get a very good profit for the meat they're selling. So, you are giving them a very good price for the murder as well. Then as per the law of karma, someone will indirectly support your premature death as well, in some way or form. That's how it'll work. But you see, that is not the only thing you are buying. Because you see, this is the modern day times. Today, now the karma the general population are gaining is even worse. Because nowadays, they don't just kill. They're very stingy nowadays. In today's time period, I have watched this one video. They were slaughtering a cow. Usually they are supposed to electrocute the cow and it is supposed to die completely without any pain. But unfortunately, they electrocuted the cow and it did not die. And so they slit it open while it was alive because it costs too much for an extra electrocution. This is a common thing that happens in many slaughterhouses throughout the east and the west. And so, now what are you promoting? Not only premature murder, but torture as well. Which means someone one day will use their money to promote premature murder and torture in some way for you. And, well, chickens, cows, these creatures, they don't just kill them, they will use them for other things. For example, with the cows, they'll pump hormones in them. And when they pump the hormones in them to produce more milk, because a cow is supposed to usually produce a couple of liters a day. These people, they'll pump hormones into the cow so it produces 3 to 4 times more than the normal amount. Now, it is not just premature murder, it is not torture. Now it is also poisoning. Because extra hormones is not good. It is a form of poisoning. You can choose to agree, you can choose to disagree, but these are the things you are promoting. And the truth is, as per the law, one day someone will indirectly promote these things to happen to you as well. Maybe not in this lifetime, maybe even in this lifetime, you never know. But it will happen eventually. That is the reason it is bad for your soul. Because when you come back to this life, because you have, I will not say come back to this life, but come back to this realm to finish some sort of unfinished desire you have, that karma is still lingering, which means you have to pay the price eventually. That is why saying vegetarian is better for the soul. Now you might say, oh well, vegetarian plants are still alive, you still kill them. Well, you see, the difference between the plants and the cows is the cows and the chickens and all the other animals, they'll feel the conscious pain that you and I can feel in the human body. The plants, science has not yet proven that plants actually feel pain in the same way we feel it, or if they feel it at all. But the difference between eating plants and eating the other animals is when you eat the plants, it was already decided that you would need to consume something for your existence. And so, it is a normal thing to consume the plants. But I'm not saying eating meat is completely wrong. If you eat the meat, for example, if you live in a desert and you cannot get plants, then you must eat the meat to survive. But you must be aware, even if you eat the plants, even if you eat the meat, there is the karma you have to deal with. If it is the plant cannot feel pain. It is something written in the Vedic scriptures. The plants cannot feel the pain, but the animals can. And so when you eat the plants, well, you see, you will be eaten as well one day in a rebirth, but you will not feel the pain. Because you see, they do not torture plants. They do not slit it open while it's alive, nothing like that. They usually deroot it and it dies properly and whatever. But even then, there is still no scientific proof that plants feel pain in the same way we do, or in fact, if they feel any pain at all. I do not know of any study, and if there is, please add it in the comments. I would love to know about it. But I doubt it. Moreover, if you eat the meat, now that I've talked about the soul and how it impacts the soul, the negative energy, and also the karma that generates, now it's time to talk about the physical impacts. Why eating meat is bad. Alright, I'll talk about the reasons they had back then, in those times when the Eastern masters were around, and the reasons they have now. Because you see, the ancient reasons are still valid today, to some degree, and now we have plenty more reasons as well, because we have only turned meat into more of a poison for ourselves, unfortunately. But it is best to know both, the past and now. So you see, in ancient time, many people would cook meat incorrectly, and when they cooked meat incorrectly, they would get very sick, and when they get very sick, there wouldn't be many cures out there. In fact, there are very few cures even today for certain meat if you eat it incorrectly. But those cures take a lot of time, and of course, it is very painful. I'm sure many people in the past have gotten food poisoning. Is that misery really worth it? Do you really want to suffer like that? Of course, this is for the people who have had it before. For those who haven't, ask around the community. I'm sure there is someone for you who can explain what it feels like to have food poisoning. Now, that is the Vedic reason. Also, back then there were other reasons. In ancient times, when they had like the chicken coops and the cattles, sometimes the chickens would run out of the coop and they would run after the chicken, and certain people, they would accidentally step on a snake and many things like that. Of course, that is a very trivial reason, but it did happen back then. So, of course, they decided, alright, vegetarianism isn't so bad. But you see, that is a very trivial reason. But also, not only those reasons, but now let's go to the modern time. Because you see, back then you got sick, and certain mishaps would happen as well. Also, when you eat meat, it is very difficult to tell if it has been poisoned. Yes, you see, you must ask someone who is in the field of poisons. When you eat a dish of meat, it is very difficult to tell if that meat has been poisoned, because it is a very flavorsome food, and because of its flavor, it is very distracting, and sometimes people can inject poison into the actual piece of meat, and when you eat the whole thing, well, it's finished, it's over. However, vegetables, not so much. Furthermore, you see, in today's modern time, the meat, it is not healthy in any way. You see, in these days, what they do is, as I said before, the hormones, eating that sort of meat is not good for you. It is not natural, it's unhealthy and very bad for you. And I am sure those who know what those hormones are that they actually inject into the meat, they would agree as well. I'm sure if you do some thorough research, you can figure that out. Also, for example, chickens, what they do is they will stuff the chickens into small cages where these chickens, they would, poo and wee on top of each other and vomit on top of each other, and they'll get sick. The cure for this was quite simple. What they did was they would feed the chickens antibiotics. And you see, these chickens would end up getting an antibiotic resistance. And then you would eat that meat. It's a very big issue. It's a very big issue indeed. But I'm sure if you do some research, you can figure all this stuff out for yourself. Everything I have said, if you just Google, it'll be very clear to you what they have done. Furthermore, not only the cosmic laws, not only the physical problems, but you see, meat is also a luxury. It is very expensive. Of course, good quality meat that doesn't have the toxins in our general cheap mainstream meat. And you see, why go to the extra level when we can just buy the vegetables? The vegetables will have all the nutrients. Protein, many people like to say, oh, meat has protein. Mushrooms and many other interesting foods do have the protein we need. And of course, there's also the added benefit of the cooking process. If you screw up and maybe it is undercooked or overcooked, you're not going to get sick because it's veggies. Now, these are just some of the general truths. Now, time to go to the Vedic secrets. These are the secrets about vegetarian lifestyle. You see, the Eastern masters, when they trained their monks in the monasteries, they tried to awaken their enlightened senses, the enlightenment power. It is an ancient ability that many have in the East. And the first method to reach this enlightenment is to go from the meat-eating diet to the vegetarian diet. The reason you had to go from there is because you needed to know it was possible to go from eating food to eating nothing. And to understand the secret, you must first eat meat and then go to vegetarianism. Because when you take that step down and reach the lower stage of food, then you know, yes, I can go from vegetarian food to liquids, and then I can go from liquids to just sunlight. Because you see, the enlightened masters, they would live off nothing but sunlight. And it's very hard for an enlightened master to teach this. If I were to say, don't eat food, just look at the sun and live. It's very hard for you to comprehend how that would be possible. But if you're a meat eater and you go from eating meat to vegetarianism, you'll know, hey, I think it's possible. It must be the same process. Of course, you have to go from vegetarian food to liquids, and then from liquids to sunlight alone. And this is not just some Vedic secret. In America, there was a man who did this in front of NASA. You can Google him if you want. He proved it. Just living off sunlight and a few liquids, you can do it. It is a very scientifically proven fact as well. Of course, back then it was a secret, not anymore. Now, the only last secret about the Vedic diet is there's the soul, there's the physical body, and now there is the power. Once the power is awakened, and the body is cleansed, and the soul is strengthened, well, then the Vedic diet is complete. And once you do that, you must start consuming liquids. You see, when you go from a solid food diet to a liquid diet, what you do is you reduce the stress on your stomach. There's less for it to digest, which means you will feel a lot better as well. That is why the Vedic masters, they went from vegetarianism to liquids once they reached enlightenment. Of course, you do not have to reach enlightenment. Going to a liquid diet is very good, and it is much better than a solid food diet. In fact, to be honest, I would even say a liquid diet is the true diet of humanity. After all, a child, a newborn baby, can it eat solid food? It is something it trains itself to once its teeth are fully developed. But originally, it can only eat liquid foods. That is why one could even say liquid foods are the true food of humanity. Now, that is the Vedic diet explained. These are the Vedic secrets. And I hope this has enlightened you and taught you the truth of the Vedic diet. Let it be a meat eater, let it be a vegetarian, let it be a vegan. That is your choice alone. But these are just some of the secrets and the truths. This is completely up to you to choose which path you will take. Adityaya Namah. Let us let the light of the sun guide us all.